Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're zooming in on the sometimes messy, always fascinating relationship between corporate strategy and morality. We hear so much about doing the right thing in business, right? But how does that actually work in a highly competitive, frankly, profit-driven world? Today, we're going to dig into exactly what our source materials say about ethics, specifically placing it right where it belongs, within the larger, absolutely critical context of corporate social responsibility.
So let's just address the elephant in the room with a provocative question that cynics absolutely love to ask. Is business ethics an oxymoron? It's a fair question. When a corporation's literal primary goal is generating profit for its shareholders, does a genuine moral compass even have a place? Well, as we break down the strategic management sources today, we're going to see that ignoring ethics isn't just bad for society, it's actually one of the most dangerous things a company can do to itself.
And if you need proof that this is a real issue, just look at this staggering number from our sources. According to a survey of over 1,000 employees at major companies, 48% admitted to engaging in one or more unethical or illegal actions in the past year alone. Literally almost half. We're talking about cutting corners on quality, covering up incidents, deceiving customers, the whole shebang. This proves exactly why this topic isn't just some abstract philosophical debate you have in a college dorm. It's a massive, highly tangible business risk that managers have to actively control.
To figure out how to mitigate that risk, here is our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at 1. The big picture of CSR. 2. Where ethics fits in. 3. Universal versus local ethical norms. 4. Frameworks for ethical choices. 5. Steps to ethical decisions. And finally, 6. The business case for ethics.
Okay, Section 1, the big picture of CSR. Let's start with the absolute broadest concept to get our foundation set.
So modern business isn't just about shareholder profit anymore. According to our sources, a business really operates on the basis of an implied social contract. Think of it like a two-way street. Society essentially grants a business the license to operate and, pursue a fair profit. In return, the business has a strict duty to not just avoid doing harm, but to proactively better the quality of life in its local communities and society at large.
Continually anchoring this strategy is what's known as the triple bottom line. This is a framework requiring leaders to succeed simultaneously across three critical dimensions. It's no longer enough to just be highly profitable. A socially responsible company has to balance profit with people, which means social initiatives and fair treatment, and planet, meaning ecological sustainability. You literally have to report success on all three fronts to be considered truly successful.
Section 2. Where ethics fits in.
If CSR is the overall strategy, we need to see how ethics acts as the compass guiding it. Our sources explicitly outline 4 pillars here, showing us exactly where ethics sits as a structural element of responsible business. Economics is mandatory, right? You have to make a profit to survive and pay fair wages. But ethics is right there next to it, dictating the boundaries of how that profit is actually made. It's the agreed-upon standard of what is right and wrong, like outright refusing to engage in bribery or nepotism, even if it might secure a super lucrative deal. Along with diversity and philanthropy, ethics fundamentally holds up the entire CSR structure. Moving to Section 3, Universal versus Local Ethical Norms. Now, here is a massive challenge. In a globalized business world, whose ethics do we actually follow? There's this deep tension in global business between universalism and relativism. Ethical universalism is the idea that some moral prescriptions, like say being truthful or not physically harming others, apply absolutely everywhere, regardless of culture. On the flip side, ethical relativism argues that right and wrong completely depend on local cultural norms. It's the whole "when in Rome, do as the Romans do" mindset. But as our sources quickly point out, pure relativism provides zero moral compass for a company.
So how do businesses navigate this? They use the integrative social contracts theory. It's a really brilliant middle ground. It says yes, you absolutely should respect local customs. Those are called second-order norms. But universal truths, these first-order norms, can never ever be compromised. For example, even if paying bribes happens to be a totally normal local custom in a specific market, the universal ethical norm against bribery takes absolute precedence. No exceptions.
All right, Section 4, Frameworks for Ethical Choices. With those global ground rules established, how do we actually evaluate a tough situation when it's staring us in the face? Our sources provide a mental toolkit of 5 frameworks. Utilitarianism looks strictly at consequences, seeking the greatest good for the most people. The rights approach evaluates if fundamental individual liberties are being protected. Fairness, or justice, ensures impartial and equal treatment. The common good focuses on community benefit. And finally, virtue ethics looks at character traits like honesty and empathy. So say you're deciding whether to close a manufacturing plant. You'd want to view that massive decision through each of these lenses to fully grasp its ethical weight.
Which brings us to Section 5, Steps to Ethical Decisions.
Let's zoom all the way in now. Let's transition from high-level theory to practical, actionable reality. Picture yourself actually sitting at your desk, facing a serious dilemma. These are the 4 concrete steps you must take to make a sound decision. First, gather the absolute facts. Actually, scratch that. Don't just gather them, isolate them. Strip away your intuition and emotions. Second, outline every single alternative course of action, even the ones that seem kind of morally questionable, just to get them honestly on the table. Third, group your choices by implication, meaning who gets harmed and who benefits. Finally, apply those ethical frameworks we just talked about. Align them with your company's core values, and confidently make your choice.
And finally, Section 6, the business case for ethics.
Let's bring this all back to the bottom line. Why does executing this correctly matter for the survival of the business? Is there actually a financial return on being ethical? The short answer is yes, for sure, because the alternative is literally catastrophic. Look at the bankruptcies of Enron and WorldCom. Unethical behavior isn't just a personal moral failing, it is a fatal business risk. When top executives manipulated stock options and misrepresented financials, it didn't just ruin a few reputations. In the case of Enron, it cost investors $64 billion in a matter of weeks. $64 billion? Ethics isn't just a nice-to-have, it's the guardrail that keeps the company alive.
But it's not just about avoiding disaster. Taking ethics seriously actually builds a moat around your business. When you weave these principles deeply into your corporate culture, you improve operational efficiency, you'll lower your risk of legal fines, and most importantly, you earn the unshakable trust of your consumers and employees. It totally flips the script, transitioning ethics from a defensive compliance requirement into a highly offensive competitive advantage.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on the next time you face a really tough call at work. Ethics is never an isolated bubble. It's the beating heart of your organization's social responsibility. So how do the daily, seemingly small choices you make ripple out into the broader world? Keep that in mind as you navigate your own professional landscape. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I hope this look at the source material empowers you to lead with both profit and principle in mind. Catch you next time.